Welcome to Real Talk TV. I'm your host, Darryl Buchannan. Tonight's show, I'm very honored to have these guests on the show tonight. We're going to talk about redemption. We're going to talk about forgiveness. And I have two very interesting guests. For me, it's a very show that talks about a lot of pain or came from a lot of pain. And I want to understand how people get to a place where it is so painful, but then come out on the other side. And these two individuals that I have here tonight have done that. I'd like to introduce Devon McNeil, who's the founder and the director of Not On My Watch mentoring program. And I also have Miss Isaura Mendes, better known as the Mother of Forgiveness. She is the founder and director of the Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy Foundation. Like I said, I have a lot of questions. I'm just grateful and blessed to have this show. I'd like to have Devon. Can you please introduce yourself to the viewers, please?
Yeah, true indeed. My name is Devon McNeil. I'm 45 years old. I spent 20 years of my life incarcerated. On September 15th of the year 2003, I was tried and convicted of second-degree murder. And as a result, I spent 20 years of my life in prison. My first parole was denied, and I was granted parole on my second shot going before the parole board. It's been tough. The incarceration was tough. Taking a life has been tough. Dealing with the consequences of that has been tough. But I stay strong. I remain rooted in my righteousness. And all I want to do today is share my story and share the pain and the suffering I went through in the hopes that others could be the benefit of my experience. Peace, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mendes, can you talk a little about yourself to the viewers?
My name is Isaura Mendes. I am with the Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy organization that I exist since 1999 and work against the violence. I am a survivor and reaching out to prison as a mother of forgiveness.
Thank you. Devon, I would like to ask, there was this woman, let me get to her first. Can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, like your background, where you come from?
Well, I'm a Cape Verdean. I came here when I was 15 and got married and have 4 children. Unfortunately, I lost 2 of my sons to gun violence. And Bobby was killed in 1995. Matthew was killed in 2006 by drive-by shooting. And Bobby was stabbed. But I got, when Bobby was stabbed to death in 1995, 3 years later, I suffered with the pain, which is still pain. Suffered with the pain, and I got stand in 1998 to build my organization and do the work for 24 years now.
Good stuff. Let me ask you another question. This is beautiful. Like I said, you're known as the Mother of Forgiveness. Very powerful. How did that name come about?
Well, when Bobby, go back to 1995 again, Bobby was stabbed to death, and the person who stabbed Bobby disappeared for a good 11 years. And then when they found him, in 2007, they gave him to go to prison for like 1 year and then to come back to trial, but in 2008. But when he came back to trial in 2008, we began from one Friday to another Friday, and but I was already thinking about forgiveness, but because the pain that I see our young people live, the way that I see them cry and bury their loved ones, and it changed my life. But I was thinking about forgive this guy even before I come to court, but I was figuring it out, how did I do it? But when I came to court from one Friday to another Friday, And they told me they gave him 8 years. I thought they was gonna give him, maybe not life, but maybe 20 years like Devon McNeil. When, they only gave him 8 years. I say, 8 years for murder my son? I said, okay. And it was, like after we gone to court, and it was supposed to be us speaking the last, like the Monday that after the trial. And I went to court, and my son took a stand, and he was already thinking about just wish the guy a luck. And then my daughter took a stand and wish him a luck. And then I also take a stand and tell him that when I heard they gave him 8 years, I took a stand and I say, I forgave you and I pray for you that hopefully that nothing bad happened to you in prison. And that's how I do the forgiveness. But it was like I did forgive, but and then I say, how can I forgive when I already lost 2 sons? How did I do that? And I was asking God, I say, how can I forgive? But and then I hang on for like a month, and this man from prison called me, and he works there. He called me and told me that he read about me on the paper that I forgave. If it's possible that I can speak to life in Norfolk prison. And I jump up and down. I say, God, answer my prayer. But myself, I never dreamed to reach out to speak in prison until that day come. I feel like God called me to reach out to prison to make a difference in people's life. And then all of a sudden, people keep asking me, they're Bridgewater later, and then they ask me to come and speak. And I went there and speak. And that's where I adopt a lot of young people there. When I took a stand to speak, it was like it was a lot of young people sitting in that podium in those, and I was just say, okay. It began to look like they my own children, and I adopted them. I say, if you're younger than 40, you're my son. If you're older than 40, you're my brother. If you are younger than 25, you're my grandson.
Wow.
And I keep reach out to prison, and right now I reach out to 9 state prison.
Yeah, I know. I think, like I said, I met you there. And I know that you had a profound effect on this brother's life when he met you. Devon, can you just talk about a little bit of, I don't know if you can or if you're willing to, what happened? What was it like growing up? What led to this,
So when you say what led to the crime?
Yeah, what led to it? I mean, we come, what type of environments do we come? What type of environments create in us, a place where we exchange the lie for the truth in our life. Meaning, I live a lie, but in my mind, I think it's the truth. True. So I don't know if you came from that same background.
Yeah, true indeed. True indeed, I come from that same background. Like I tell anybody who's willing to listen, and like I tell any youth that I mentor, and like I tell their parents, the parents of the youth I mentor, my street education did not come from the streets. I learned my street education in my home first. My father spent my whole entire life incarcerated. My aunties on both sides of my family, my mother's side and my father's side, were drug dealers, professional shoplifters, and every boyfriend they had on both sides was in the street life. So, growing up, it was very common for me to see large piles of money being counted, guns laying around, smoking weed. I smoked my first joint at 9 years old. 9 years old, brother. So, the education, again, did not come from the street. it came from the very individuals who were responsible for my nurturing, my loving, my nourishment. Now, the question is asked, do I hold anybody at fault for this education? No, I do not. Well, why? Because I realized today that I was misinformed by the misinformed. I was only given a script, a story, founded on a lie that they were given to.
Exactly. Yep.
So when I went into the streets, brother, I didn't realize that there was a lot of anger, deep-rooted anger, sitting at the core of my stomach. Why? Again, my father spent my entire life incarcerated. So again, it was common for my mother to get up on a Sunday, music playing, Mary J. Blige. I could smell the pine saw, the bleach, cleaning the house. Then it would transition to her ironing her clothes and ironing me and my little brother's clothes. That let me know today was the day we're going to see my father. And then it got to the point where I can always tell when my mother spoke to my father on a collect call. If she was happy, she spoke to my father. If she was sad, she spoke to my father. I did not know how to internalize my mother's sadness. I just knew my mom was sad. Then it progressed where I would hear the arguments, but they were always one-sided because I couldn't hear what my father was saying under the phone. But my mother was saying, I spent all this time coming to see you, dragging my sons in rain and snow to come see you. This how you treat me? I would turn the corner and I would peek. And she would have tears coming down her eyes. That's my mom sitting there crying. I don't know what having a father was like, but I know that's my mom sitting there crying. What does a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old boy say to his mother regarding his father making his mom upset? What do at 9, 10, 7 years old? So what I did was I internalized it. I didn't know what to say, brother. So I kept the anger. Well, first it was sadness. What I did was I internalized my mother's sadness. Then that sadness became anger because it was hard for me to understand. My mother gets up every Sunday, gets us dressed. We take the bus and train, rain, snow. What did he do on the other end of that phone to upset my mom? And because I didn't know, I would get mad. I left home, brother, and I realized when I went to the streets, everybody I affiliated with, every one of my so-called friends, we had the same exact upbringing. Then drugs came in. My aunties were crack addicts. My mom became a crack addict. In my teenage years, brother, here's a woman that never smoked a cigarette. But yet, she became an addict in my teenage years. So to answer your question, a lot of my dysfunction, a lot of my mental manipulation, a lot of my social engineering, it came from the very individuals who were responsible for my love and care, brother.
Yeah.
Peace.
Thank you. Mrs. Mendes, can you describe, if you can, what it was like, or what did you feel like when you got the phone call that your son had been murdered?
It was big. It was sad. I remember when they told me Bobby was stabbed. I lived down the street. It was down the street from my house up the street. They told me Bobby was stabbed, but I thought maybe it was just a stab that people get stabbed and then they go to the hospital, they be okay. But when I got to my son brought me, and my husband brought me to the where Bobby was, he was laying in his back, and he wasn't moved. He was just laying there. And I was screaming, and I passed out. I don't know what I was. And they took me to Boston Medical Center. And they took Bobby to Boston Medical Center. They put Bobby until the day my son Matthew died. He was complained, and that Bobby would lay on the ground. But when the ambulance picked him up, they let his head fall in the ground again. And he feel like they injure him more by him fall in that ground before they took him to the Boston Medical Center. So I remember go to Boston Medical Center, but they asked me if y'all wanted to see him. I say no, but I regret it. I regretted not seeing my son.
They asked you, did you want to see him?
Yeah.
In the Was he already pronounced?
No,
at the time?
he didn't die. Oh. He was still alive.
But
I regret and say, I think he died before I got to the hospital.
Okay.
But I remember they asked me if y'all wanted to see him. I say no.
Why is that?
I don't know. I say no. But I remember they put me in a wheelchair, and because I was really, really sick. And then after got ready to go home, they say he died. He didn't make it. And I was just crying. And I didn't even, it's just so sad. But I remember instead of keep his clothes that tore down his body, they put him in a bag and gave it to me to bring home.
They bring the clothes home? Rip the clothes?
Yeah, that was the mistake.
Wow.
From the beginning. They, instead of the police, and I don't know who's supposed to keep the clothes, because he was murdered. That was an evidence.
Exactly.
They gave it to me. And I came home, his father lived like 2 doors away from me. And one day I was getting so sad, and I pick up the clothes.
Whose father?
Not his father. I pick up clothes to take to his father to show him, to ask him where he was his son. And wow. It's like he said, come and take her home. She's crazy. Yeah. So, and then I came home with the clothes, and then it was smell, and I wash it.
I watched the evidence.
And I keep the clothes because I know it was evidence after a couple months later. Yeah. And I kept the clothes. But and then when we was going, he would disappear for like 11 years. They could have found him, the person with Bobby. He was disappeared for 11 years. But then when they did found him, and that we have to go to court, he went to jail for 1 year and then come back to the trial. And we went to court from one Friday to another Friday. Every day I went to court, I was dragging those clothes with me in the bag. But they didn't ask for it. But I know it was evidence.
Yeah.
And it was really tough. It's really tough for a mother to lose their children to murder. Yeah. But it is also really tough if you think about it, if you have your children took someone's life, end up in prison. Yeah. And it's also sad to have your children got shot and be paralyzed for you to watch them year after year, yeah. Paralyzed, neck down. You can't do anything. That happened to my family.
Wow. So
reaching out to prison was the best thing happened to me.
So you go speak to, and just to be clear, you go into prison and you speak to lifers, man.
Yes.
That have yeah.
It happened. It was the best, because I know it teaches me where our children are gone to when they took a life, or when they sell drugs, or when they got caught with the guns. Because I have a woman there who took me everywhere and showed me. Some people live in a community for the rest of their life. They don't know where our children go when something happened. Wow. Even though I lost my children to murder, but it's also teach me, if just in case it's my children who go to prison, I know where they're gonna go.
Thank you. Wow. Devon, you didn't answer my question, brother. Is it a place where you can't talk about your case, you don't want to talk about it? I'm just kind of curious what led up to it, because I could kind of figure out your mindset that surrounding the case. What happened?
Oh,
what
the
happened
case?
that night? What happened that night?
Oh, man.
Was it just...
No. I mean, listen, man. I'm open, brother.
Okay. Yeah.
The world needs to know the mind of a young black man in the city. Yeah. Because just as I took that young man's life on July 19th of the year 2000, many lives have been taken after that. Yeah. So, a friend of mine, we'll say his name is Fred. Mm-hmm. He loaned another friend of ours some marijuana, about $300 worth of marijuana. This was all done unbeknownst to me. On a beautiful summer day, July 17th of the year 2000, me, my friend Fred, and another friend of mine, Chuck, we was going for a blunt ride. And for those who don't know what a blunt ride is, you roll up some marijuana, get in the car, and you go to the nice area where in your city, and you just ride around, smoke your marijuana. I got in the passenger seat, Fred was driving, Chuck was in the back seat. We pull out of the driveway in our neighborhood, in the area that I frequently sold drugs, Butler Street. That's where I was well known at. Mm-hmm. Police know me, everybody. As we pull out of the driveway to go on this blunt ride, another friend, whose name is Maul, joking around, I'm assuming, I've done it. As we was going down the hill, the neighborhood I'm from is forming like a hill. Mm-hmm. So we get in the car, we're going down the hill, Tramal's on his bike. He goes to the driver's side of the car. He grabs the rear view mirror on the outside of the car while on his bike. My friend Fred's driving, and we're just going down the hill. I've done it, we've all done it as kids.
Playing, yeah.
So Fred slows down. He's like, hey, man, cut it out. Maul says, keep going, man. No, I got this, don't worry, keep going. So we keep going down the hill. Till this day, because it's never been spoken about, I haven't talked to Maul about this, I don't know what made him go in the front of the vehicle. So he let go of the rearview mirror and went into the front on his bike. And what he would do is he would instantly hit the brakes on his bike, and that would cause us in the vehicle to stop suddenly. He did it about 3 or 4 times. The last time he did it, Fred didn't stop the car in time. And it literally just hit the back of the bike. Maul falls, the bike is crushed. Maul gets back up off the ground. He jumps on the hood of the vehicle and then proceeds to jump on the windshield of the vehicle. When he jumped on the windshield, glass got all over me, got all over Fred. Fred was triggered. He got out of the car, which in turn, I responded, I got out of the car. So now you have two friends of mine, face to face, about to go to blows. I come between them both. I turn them all, and I'm like, bro, look what you did, bro.
No.
Like, look at me. And he tells me, mind your business. I said, mind my business? You got glass all over me, bro. And you got glass over Fred. While we're exchanging words, Fred gets in the car and he takes off without no words being said. I know for a fact he's going to get a gun. When Tramal sees Fred take off, he runs in the opposite direction. Me and Chuck, we walk back up to the hill where we originally was at. On our walk, he's like, man, it's crazy out here, man. The summer's gonna start like this, it's July. I'm like, yeah, I know, man. He says, man, I hope Fred don't come back, man, and cause nothing. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna be all right. But I knew right when I said we're gonna be all right, I knew I wasn't telling the truth. About 5 minutes go by. We're in front of the house where we frequently sold our drugs at. Fred comes back, he's on a bike. As soon as he approached me, he asked me, where's Maul at? I said, bro, he didn't come back yet. I said, let me talk to you for a minute. We went to the side. I said, bro, please don't do nothing stupid out here, man. We got kids out here. There's adults out here. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He says to me, V, if he comes back, it's on. Now, in the streets, we know that to be.
Definitely.
There's gonna be an exchange of gunfire if he comes back.
Yeah.
Out of selfishness, misguided loyalty, I went and I grabbed my gun that was stashed in the driveway. So now you have two young men filled up with anger, with guns on their waistline, waiting for this third person to come back. As we're talking, I'm trying to convince him to not do anything. I know I don't want to do nothing. I just came home from prison about 15 months prior. A red car turns the corner. I know this car to be an individual who is friends with Maul. As this car slowly approached, before Maul could exit the car, me and Fred ran at the car, shooting our guns, firing. Fortunately, nobody was hit that day. The car was riddled with bullets. 2 days later, July 19th, I get a phone call. I'm at my mom's house. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning. Fred calls me, he tells me that the victim of my case, who his name is Bruce Montron, he has a name. Bruce Montron and two of his friends were riding around the city of Brockton looking for me and Fred. So I told Fred, well, I'm gonna get in the shower, come get me in a little while. About 11 o'clock, 11:15, Fred pulled up my mother's driveway. I get in the passenger seat vehicle. We smoked a blunt in my mom's driveway. I told him, let's go to your house. That's where my gun's at. Because after that first shooting on July 17th, we ran to Fred's house, and that's where I stashed my gun at. So we went to his mom's house, pulled in the driveway. He went inside, he retrieved my gun. When he brought my gun out, it was still empty from the shooting prior. So I gave my gun back to him and I told him, fill me up. He went back in, filled me up. And I will never forget because as we backed out of his driveway, no words were ever said. We didn't say where we were going. We didn't say we're looking for anybody. Just instinct drove Fred back to the neighborhood we were just shooting in 2 days prior, like wild cowboys and Indians, as if we had no care in the world, as if we had no regard for life. When we pull up to this neighborhood, there's about 10 people outside. Fred gets out of the car. He approaches the people. They're smoking some weed. I'm sitting in the car because I want to say I'm very familiar with this type of lifestyle, and I know something was going to come up. Something was going to go down. And as soon as I had that thought, a green Honda pulls up. Bruce Montron and another individual exit the vehicle, which made me exit my vehicle. I approached Bruce Montron and his friend. Fred was beside me, and I asked Bruce, I said, what's going on, bro? And he said, what's up with that stuff from yesterday? I'm like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm talking about, between you and my brother, Maul. I said, hey, do me a favor. Why don't you stay out of this one? Mind your business. He says, mind my business? It is my business. Maul's like my brother. And I said, that's how you feel, bro? He said, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. If I would have my gun on me right now, we would not be having this conversation. Those small words was enough to trigger me. Caused me to pull out my gun because the whole time we were exchanging words, Bruce never even knew I had my gun in my back pocket. I pulled out my gun and I shot Bruce twice in broad daylight at 12:35 in the afternoon in front of 11 people. And as a result, he died. I ran like the coward I was. I ran from the scene. I went to Boston, to my grandmother's house. I knocked on her, I rang her bell. My grandmother answered the door, looked at me and said, Peter Pan, what's wrong with you? What's going on? She knew instantly something was wrong. And I broke down in tears before I even entered my grandmother's house. I walked into the kitchen. I sat down and I explained to my grandmother in detail exactly what had just happened. She says, well, you got two choices. You can turn yourself in, or we can leave it in God's hands. Which one you gonna choose? I said, leave it in God's hands. I went to sleep that night. I woke up, I had some missed calls from Fred. I called because at this time I didn't know Bruce had lost his life. Fred informed me that the police were in the neighborhood really heavy, helicopters, and that Bruce had passed away. On July 24th of the year 2000, I was walking my dog. Police, about 20 officers approached me, read me my rights, put handcuffs on me, and brought me to the Brockton police station. 3.5 years later, I went to trial, and I was convicted of second-degree murder. And I spent 15 years of my life in prison, went to the parole board for the very first time. I was denied, given a 3-year setback. When I went 3 years later, they felt as though I had rehabilitated myself enough to re-enter society again. And here I am, brother.
Thank you very much, man. Yeah, that's deep. I wanted to talk about some other things. I wanted to get to the place where you, but I did need to touch on the before, what happened and what causes people to, we got two sides of the spectrum, right? And what causes people forgive and come out now and do the beautiful things you're doing for the community. I mean, because I know, just like myself, it's tough for a person to be incarcerated, get the most out of being incarcerated, and come out and have a changed life. And you did that.
But one thing, I don't mean to cut your wisdom, brother, but one thing I want to say to you, Ms. Mendes, and to the audience, I had no right whatsoever to take Bruce's life on that day. I had no right. And to be completely honest with you, Bruce didn't do anything wrong. That day was all me, brother. And it wasn't even about the argument. It was all about the internal discord, the internal storms that were brewing from a child within me.
No, I get it, bro. I get it.
And it came out that fateful day.
I get it. I want to get back to that question. I wanted to ask Miss Mendes. So that happened. You get that first phone call, and then you get another phone call with Matthew. I can't grasp the forgiveness. I know you know that you're the mother of forgiveness. For me, when I think about it, I'm like, I would never be able to. From looking at it from this standpoint, and being honest with you, I could not, because I'm watching you. You're so peaceful. Be honest with you, you're just peaceful. It's genuine. I struggle with to forgive people about little things. So how does it happen? I mean, how does it really happen? They say, I want to just cut you. They say that forgiveness is the fragrance that the flower released upon the foot that just crushed it. That's what forgiveness is. And for me, how did it happen? How do you really just genuinely forgive
Forgiveness is not really me. It's God work through me and Son me to make a difference in His world. Because I'm able to walk into 9 state prison. In each of the time that I go, I don't just go there to visit one person. I spoke with the 150, 200, 100. And the more I talk about it, and the more powerful I get from the forgiveness.
You're very peaceful looking.
It's something that I can't explain, but it's there.
No, you can feel the energy.
I want to, especially when Devon come out.
I wanted to get to that
2020.
story.
Yeah.
I was going to get to, I don't get you off. I want to get to that story because that's like a high point. Because me and his brother is close, and he was telling me. Do you want to explain what happened? I mean, the way you guys met. One of you guys want to explain how you met?
I just want to say one more thing. It was really tough when I get the second call of my son Matthew.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking about your first time.
When Bobby was killed, it was stabbed. He was trying to save someone's life. He broke the fight and he was stabbed. But I never dreamed that my other son was going to be shot and killed.
Was it in the same area?
It's the same street that took Bobby in 1995. And that same street in 2006, I remember reach out to one family, not too far from where I live, and reach out to another family late at night in Muddy Pan. And then my son was shot that day, drive-by shooting.
How old was he?
He was 24.
And I read somewhere about it that he came back from
England.
England talking to kids about violence and stuff. He was very
Yes,
active.
we went to England. My family was attacked from put to be in a gang, but it was never gang.
They were not gang members. They were not.
It was never gang. It was someone who would fight. My son went to break the fight, and he was killed.
Okay.
That's not a gang.
No.
Okay? It was a fight. It was a neighborhood and a neighborhood. They would fight with each other. And my son went to break the fight for my nephew who was fighting with my neighbor. And then my neighbor stabbed my son, Bobby. But Matthew, we reached out to England to speak about violence because he was dealing with a case of $20 marijuana that the police said that undercover cop, they arrest 27 people, 26 people. My son was the number 7 in the sweep. They don't even know the name. But when they pick up my son late at 3 o'clock in the morning, that morning, to take to jail, it was like we have a police like never in my street, never, that I never saw when people got killed.
Yeah.
So they picked my son for $20 marijuana. That was in March, around March. They pick him and pick him up 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I went to court from 1990, from 2003 until 2006.
Is the case with Matthew?
Case with Matthew for $20 marijuana was federal. He was supposed to go to jail for 5 years if he plead guilty.
For $20.
For $20 marijuana. He said he didn't sell that $20 marijuana. I said, if you don't sell the $20 marijuana, don't plead guilty. But and then they was after my son, trying to put him in jail.
Is that why he went to
I
England?
remember when I was going to court for $20 marijuana, he was charged with robbery in the 8 o'clock in the morning in the Newberry Street in Boston. For $300, they say he was trying to go buy banana. He took the money at that 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But when the judge was trying to figure out how he get to that buy banana for $300, it was no proof. So they threw the case out. And then Shanna Flary, which is on my organization, say, okay, you need to get out to take Matthew out of here. I have a place in England that he can go and work with the young people until his case is over. And then he will come back.
So after his brother's murder, they started targeting, for some reason just started
I
targeting.
was tagged. My family was tagged. My family was.
Yeah.
We went through a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We went through a lot.
I can imagine. All right, thank you. I didn't want to bring that up.
That's okay.
Yeah,
No, that's okay.
I don't want to, you know me.
That's okay. It's okay to be emotion. It's
No,
okay.
I get it. I just.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So I never really talk about this. No way. I'm talking about today in a talk show.
Thank you.
So when Shanna found out, okay, we went to court. They say his case supposed to be over in June. And in March, it was already 3 years. And she said, you guys gonna go to England, he's gonna work there until his case is clean in May. He's gonna come in and he's gonna come back. But while we was in England is a very dark place. He say, I'm not staying. I'm black man. I need to be in the sun. I'm going back to Boston. So when we come back to Boston, 3 weeks later, 6 weeks later, almost 7 weeks later, Matthew was drive-by shooting.
Yeah.
But again, it was a gift from God again. Because I was sent to England with my son, and when I got there, he thought England, we was in a strange place because we went to England, we don't know anybody. But it was like the people who's going to pick us up, we have to see them in a picture to go to their house. And they pick us up and bring them to their home. But when Matthew, his room was downstairs, my room was upstairs. He saw the queen-size bed. He said, Mommy, this place is strange. I'm not let you sleep by yourself. And we sleep in the same bed for 2 weeks.
Let me ask you something, Ms. Mendes.
And he was 24 years old.
Yeah.
Sleep with me in the same bed for 2 weeks, and then we come back to Boston.
So both of y'all went, and it was particularly because the family was being targeted?
Matthew was a tag.
Okay.
They wanted to send my son to jail. If he plead guilty, he would have get 2 years. If he doesn't plead guilty, the jury will find him guilty. He was going to go to jail for 5 years.
Yeah. I need to ask you a question, and then I'm going to move on. But I need to ask you a question. You're not mad at God for allowing this?
No,
you're not mad. Was there a phase where that happened? Because you got to know, because it's deep. Forgiveness is deep, real pure. We don't experience that. So I'm experiencing it, and it's just, I'm trying to eternalize it and see you from your perspective, and I can't see it. Okay. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you, I just can't see it if it was me. I got 2 little kids, and I'm sitting here, and I'm like, there's no way. So if there's something that you can say, and I'm sure there's people that are gonna watch this, is like, how does it, because it's real, you see it in your face, so it's not like you're sitting here saying it, it's all over you. You know what I mean? I can see your piece. How do we get to that place? I would be angry at God. Was there ever a time?
It's not God. Everything happened in the world happened because the way we act and the way we live, the way the community live,
so you never
the way
blame
the
God.
people live.
You never blame God?
No, I don't blame God.
Even in the beginning.
He loves us. God loves us.
Wow.
He loves us just the way we are. But sometimes when we don't do the right thing, we get punished. No. And I don't believe God is punishing me, but I believe he wants to use me to reach out to his people and to tell the people that forgiveness is powerful.
It is powerful.
Because forgiveness is not really for the people or for the person, it's for you. So you can live with your life.
Wow.
And do the work that he put us here to do. Each one of us here in this world is a gift. But sometimes we find out when something bad happened that we a gift. Like Devon is a gift.
Most definitely. That's my, yep.
You a gift.
Thank you.
I'm a gift. She's a gift. We all gift. We all here to do something.
So you think that situation is what really brought about your work? Obviously it brought about your work, but now I'm not saying it's a way to distract you from the pain, your work. You're saying that it's a direct result of your work. I'm trying to figure it out.
You can't figure
and
it out.
Maybe it is, maybe it ain't. You know what I mean? I get that. And all right, so Devon, thank Thank you very much.
You can't figure it out.
I know,
because
yeah.
It's a gift. It's not everybody who can forgive.
Yeah.
And it's not everybody who can lost a child and to talk about forgiveness.
Yeah.
We are being used. Our faith can bring us to a big thing.
Yeah.
And my gift that God gave me is to suffer the pain of my children, but also to suffer for the people who also, those people in prison could be my kids. Who is me?
Yeah.
Who is me to say that my kids don't go to prison? You know?
Thank you. The mother of forgiveness. I like that. Devon, so I wanted to talk about how you guys met. I know I talked to Devon a lot, and he was telling me how you were pressed upon him to ignite some type of change. He said when he gets out, he would come see you, and he did. So how, one of you guys, I don't want to tell the story. One of you guys tell the story of how you guys met.
You can tell the story.
So in 2007, because of my behavior, good behavior, I left Susan Banowski, Shirley Max, and I was transferred to Old Colony Correctional Center in Bridgewater. Immediately when I got there, I was introduced to an individual by the name of Allah Fuquan, who is my educator, my enlightener, the very man who I can honestly say, if not for him, I would not be sitting in this chair today. I met Allah Fuquan. He gave me some information about changing my life. There was an event coming up, and he said, there's this woman, a very, very, very powerful woman. She lost her 2 sons to violence. And as soon as he said that, I automatically knew of her, the name. So he says, brother, you have to come out and listen to what she says. Now, most don't know, but I had already started the process of changing my life for the better during this time. It was 2008. There was about 150 of us in a gymnasium at Old Colony. I will never forget the mother of forgiveness, Miss Mendes, walked through the door with an escort, and her shoulders, what did it was her shoulders were just like straight, her head was up, and I leaned over and I'm like, are you sure she lost 2 sons?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Man.
And he didn't even respond. I wasn't joking, it was just like she's coming in with grace. Like how, I was thinking like, you know, a hurt woman, you know? He didn't respond. And then she instantly, when she opened her mouth, she said, my sons. Everybody smiled, and she said loud, I forgive you. That word forgiveness, I had been hearing it for the last 6 months. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. When Miss Mendes ordered us, she said, if you're comfortable with a show of hands, how many of you guys in this gymnasium today are responsible for taking someone's life? Only raise your hand if you're comfortable. My hand went up. And she said again, I forgive you. You guys are not the individuals who took my son's life, but I forgive you. That was so powerful, brother. It brought tears to my eyes. Again, I had already started the process of change. So to hear a woman who lost her 2 sons come behind a wall and tell me, Devon McNeil, who took a life, that she forgave me, I had never felt that feeling before. When the event was over, they gave us about 20 minutes to meet and greet. I approached Miss Mendes and I said to her, you don't know what you've just done to my life, I said, I'm in a process of changing right now. I said, and you've helped me solidify that change by forgiving me today. I said, I don't know when I'm gonna get out of prison. I said, when I do, I'm gonna come find you. And she said to me, if you're sincere, if you're serious, I'll be waiting. 14 years later.
Between that point
And
actual meeting.
14 years later.
Wow.
But before that, I was released in 2020, April 23rd. I was released from prison after spending 20 years there. I wasn't home for a week yet. I had my daughter set up my Facebook page. One day, my daughter was at school. My lady at the time was at work. I was at home. And I said, you know what? Today's the day to get active. I just felt it. I turned my phone on. I had no idea what I was doing. I sat my phone up on a coffee mug, and I just recorded myself. And on that day, I spoke to all the mothers who had lost their children to gun violence, and I asked them to forgive me. But the message was for one woman in particular, and that was Miss Mendes. Because in that video, I spoke to her and Charlie Baker. And I said, Miss Mendes, if you see this video, I'm home now, I'm reaching out to you like I told you I would, and I'm looking for you.
Good stuff, man.
But COVID was rampant. I came home in the heart of COVID. She, at the time, I didn't know it, but she wasn't seeing anybody at the time. She had a family to protect through the COVID. And then I went through Lynn Curry. I asked Lynn one day, I said, Lynn, you might know a woman who I'm trying to get a hold of. It's been 2 years I've been trying to find this woman. And she said, what's her name? I said, Miss Isaura Mendes. She said, I just got off the phone with her.
Yeah, God's good, man.
And we connected right there and met at Panera Bread the next day.
God's good. She was telling me that story. That's a powerful story.
Indeed.
I want to know a little bit about where the Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy Foundation is today. And if you don't mind, what can people do to help further your work?
Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy, we began in 1998. And then the first event we did, it was we did the Crime Watch, neighborhood Crime Watch. And then after that, we organized the candlelight vigil. And then we organized Peace Walk, we called Parent Children Walk for Peace. And we organized Found Your Voice in Peace Back to School. And we organized also fundraising that we do in honor of Matthew. We all do everything lasts for 20 years.
You've been doing it for 20 years?
20 years. And then Walk for Peace, this year, I walked for Mother's Day Walk. Our Walk for Peace lasts 11 years, which they call Parent Children Walk for Peace. But the Mother's Day Walk continue, and I walked that walk for 24 years.
And is that just mothers? Just mothers that lost
Everybody walked.
But everybody can walk, okay.
Everybody walked. But when I did the walk for 11 years, everything I do is a struggle. Because they have one organization where people donate to do for survivors, which is Louise D. Brown. And I didn't get no money to do the work.
Okay.
But I managed to work as a volunteer in my community for 24 years. And every year, I have one woman who was with me, which is Shanna Flary, who helped me. My organization is attached to her organization, and which is Touchable Stories and the Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy. She's the one who helped me write a grant. I have friends that also helped me with Sarah Mauser, helped me write a grant. The grant that I get to do my work is like 2,000, 3,000, maybe 5, and no more than that.
Okay.
But I was able to organize 5 events per year. And the last event that we did was Matthew Courage Award Dinner. We gave $7,000 scholarship to the young people who go to college.
Wow.
And then the COVA come,
Came, yeah.
and then we here. But right now, I want his organization to do the work. He said he's gonna do the work, and I can see he's a powerful young man.
No, I believe it. Yeah, he's on his
If
boat.
people want to donate,
Yeah.
I wanted to continue to do the scholarship for the kids. Through that, they can donate his organization, and we work together.
Good stuff. Yeah. I want you to introduce your books, bro. You know what I mean?
True indeed.
I read the Streets Lied and the names, man. I don't want to say, one of the persons, but was a brother that was in the next cell of mine for a while, and I'll just say Orange, right? And I just was, and his story goes way back, me growing up with my Isaura and all that. But I read it and I just started reading these stories, bro, and it is a powerful book. It's very, because I always tell people, man, and people, I say, well, we can talk and we can, try to help the kids, but you got the real medication locked up. It's the people, the real people that have done it, not these people that are rapping and acting like they've done just, the medication is locked up. So for you to do that, man, that's straight medication for the kids, you know what I mean? And for the youth. Can you tell a little bit about it?
Yeah, man. So my first book, which is my baby, is called The Streets Lied, and We Believed.
Shut up right into the camera, it's okay, yep.
That's my first book,
Yep.
self-published in prison. This book came about as a result of me sitting inside of the AHC program, which stands for the African Heritage Coalition. I was a part of that organization with the brothers who formed that.
Is that in Old Colony or at Norfolk?
It's at
It's all
almost
over.
all the
Where
prisons
which
now,
one you was
but
at?
I was at Old Colony. That's where it happened at. On a Wednesday night, we would all get together at First Movement, 6 o'clock. We would go to a room and we would talk about our issues as young black men in prison, in the streets, relationships with our children. We would just go and just discuss what was on our heart and our mind. On this particular night, I looked around the room and I began to take account on just the individuals that I knew and how much time they had spent in prison. When the count was over, there was 462 years in that room, and that wasn't even counting everybody. Because there was some guys I didn't know how much time they had been in prison. So as I'm looking, I had an epiphany. I always had a notebook. I went everywhere with a notebook and my pen. And I said to myself, what if I can get each and every man in this room to write in my notebook? But then I was like, well, what would you have them write? And it came to me instantly. I would have them write about their prison experience, but I would want them to describe it as if they were talking directly to me or someone younger than them. And I explained to each individual who wrote in my notebook that this wasn't about exploiting or putting your negative experiences out as if they were cool.
No glamorizing.
No glamorizing. The only way you can speak about your negativity is if you're utilizing it as a teachable moment.
Gotcha.
And here you have
Yeah.
the streets lie and we believe. That notebook is what turned into this right here.
When I read it, I wanted to clarify a little bit more. Like these stories, when I read these, it is conversations. It is like when I was reading it, I was like visualizing these, just having these men having these conversations, and not so much with me, but with their former or younger self.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying?
True indeed.
So that's how I looked. I'm like, well, these is like you would tell you.
And the men society needs to get this book.
They really do. I really.
There's not a book in our city that I know of, Boston, Mass, that has actual men, real live men, who are in prison right now. Some are free, and some are deceased. But it's a book that tells the youth, that tells adults, that tells judges, lawyers, doctors, criminal justice classes on exactly the mind state of men in prison.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's right here.
It's most definitely.
But it's mainly for our youth who believe, because we have youth today, brother, that believe that going to prison is a badge of honor.
Yes.
This book dispels that myth.
Good.
Peace.
That's good. Yes, getting back to that, you talk about educated. These are the types of books that when you do read, it's like I said, it's from the mouths of men who are probably at the most, how can I put it, the high point in their awakening, or we can put it that, or their level of consciousness, meaning that they're in touch with what happened, in touch with what got them in the situation they're in. And I think what happened is this book, I found a lot of, that allows them to have some compassion and say, you know what, I want to reach out and stop somebody from coming.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I talk about, a lot of times I talk about the reality, right? We don't see the reality. You're right, people do think it's a rite of passage. I thought it was a rite of passage.
Me too.
I couldn't wait to get to Walpole.
Me
I said
too.
it so many times. But now when you go through these, they go into prison and you look back and the reality is, man, to see a prison cell, the way I see it today, my perspective, I see it as a coffin, right? I see prison as a place where they put people who are living dead, right? And that little wall is caged. It's like a cemetery. So I see the reality of it. But when in the beginning, I just saw it was a playpen. I really did. I just saw, I couldn't wait to get to Walpole. At 17, I went to Walpole. I just couldn't wait, right? Yeah, and the book does a lot to dispel those myths, and I appreciate that. Let me tell you a little bit about Not On My Watch mentoring.
Oh, man.
I've been following you. I just want to say I've been following him. I used to listen to Eric Thomas in the morning for my motivation, and now I listen to Devon for my motivation every morning.
I appreciate you, brother. Not On My Watch Mentoring Incorporated is a nonprofit organization that I founded actually while incarcerated. I didn't register it, but I founded it. It was mine. It was my baby. Like, I worked on it every day. I talked about it every day. There's men in prison and in society right now that will look you in your face and tell you, this brother talked my ear off about this organization he was gonna start when he got out. Because here's the reality. I was a severe at-risk youth. Severe at risk. And no one could tell me anything. I had it all figured out, right? But I was not so far removed from myself that I didn't know how to listen. So men, older men, would come to me in my neighborhood and they would sit me down and they would tell me, You're a dog. Look at this young G. You a real N-word. Then it became, V, you know what? You next up in line, bro. And let me say this real quick to society, police officers, judges, DAs, clinicians. If you're watching this, I need you to understand this. I was an individual who was taught, mentally conditioned, and told over and over again that if I was gonna sell crack cocaine in this neighborhood, I better be prepared to shoot my gun for this neighborhood. There are millions of young black inner city kids right now being socially engineered and mentally conditioned to be killers. I was taught that you better not shoot a person unless you can grab him. Young black men in the inner city today are being taught and trained this very same sick lifestyle. So my nonprofit, Not On My Watch Mentoring, that conditioning will not happen on my watch.
Got you. Got you.
My youth will not join gangs on my watch.
Got you.
You will not shoot nobody or own a gun on my watch. Why, Devon? Why? Why are you so concerned about these young men you don't know? Because I took somebody's life when nobody was watching me. I wasn't on nobody's watch. So I was allowed to sell crack cocaine, heroin, and commit senseless acts of violence in my neighborhood, in my community, because I wasn't on nobody's watch.
Got it.
It won't happen on my watch. So that is what Not On My Watch mentoring is about. I am dead serious about mentoring these young black men. I am dead serious about stopping this violence.
Got you.
I have been to countless funerals. Brother, is it normal to sleep in a cemetery? Is that normal?
No, it's not normal at all.
That's what me and my friends used to do, brother. We used to break night in the cemetery where our friends rested at. Is it normal to have heated debates about what you want to be buried in inside of your casket? We used to have heated debates on the clothes that we wanted to wear inside of our casket when we died, brother. That is not normal thinking. These young black men today are still being conditioned this way to believe that their life means nothing. We did not value, how did we value life when we were concerned about what we was gonna wear in our casket? What kind of life were we valuing?
That's why we call it, we don't even call it, and I think we all should refrain from calling that thing a lifestyle. And it's really a death style.
A death style.
We need to change our wording and we're dealing with that because the truth is it is a death style. And we are conditioned. We come off the porch with only half the math, right? And you can never solve a problem with just half the solution. You just can't have it. What can people do to help Not On My Watch mentoring? What is the best, if you was to need something now necessary, what would it be?
Right now, I just need support. What does that support look like? That means if a person truly believes in my mission and what I'm doing out in my community for these kids, I need a grant writer. I don't know how to write grants.
Speaking to the camera, yeah.
If you are a grant writer out there and you can help write grants for Not On My Watch mentoring and help me move this nonprofit organization further to reach more children and to hold events like my mother, Miss Mendes, was doing, marching, backpacks, scholarships. I need Not On My Watch to be here long after Devon McNeil is gone. So I need you to come out. I need volunteers. Get in the streets with me. Learn what I do. Create some space for me to bring my kids in. Most importantly, grant writers. We cannot do anything, not just me. Any nonprofit organization cannot function without a grant writer. That's the most important piece missing from my nonprofit. My mother, Miss Mendes, the mother of forgiveness, told me, Devon McNeil, that she's putting her trust in my hands.
Yes.
Game over.
Game over.
He's going to do the work that I've been doing for 24 years. And he's going to do it in his way. The thing that you don't do for me, when in 24 years that I have Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy, please help my son, a daughter in prison 14 years ago, get money to do the work, to make difference for the young people in our community. Our young people need help. And I believe that he knows every corner how to get them. Help my son, adopt a son from prison. Thank you.
Thank you. Brother and sister, I mean, if there's anything else you guys want to say, any last minute words, but thank you guys, man, for coming on. I'd like to have you again. And I also appeal to grant writers. I'll help out and do what I can. I mean, I'm consumed, so I hate to just commit, but we'll do something to get it together. But if you have anybody, if you know anybody that can help this brother get to where he's at, to where he wants to be, you can't keep sitting on the sideline. And you can't keep sitting on the sideline and asking why these things keep occurring, and you're not participating, because it affects us all. Having these type of shows for me comes from a deep place, because I know, bro, I know if I had just a little bit of help, right, things might be different. And I think a lot of us believe that, what can I do? And I say to that, never underestimate the power of one. So if you're just sitting there and you want to do something, if you're sitting there and you understand what this brother's mission is and what my sister has been through, get off the sidelines, do something, man. And don't wait till it happens to you.
I always believe in my guys in prison that one day it was my dream for them to come out and look for me to do the work. Because I believe in them. I believe they make mistakes. I believe things happen, but I also believe that people can change. And I believe in Devon. Devon can do the work, but he needs your help. He needs money. He's working right now, but he's gonna quit his job, and he's gonna be a full-time nonprofit.
That's right.
What you don't do for me for in 24 years, volunteer for my community, please do it to him, because I know he's gonna make difference. I said that before, and I say that again. Tomorrow we're gonna visit State House. We're gonna visit City Hall, and we're gonna knock in door, because State House said, State House is our home.
Yeah.
Yes.
In City Hall, when we put the people in City Hall, it's our home.
That's right.
And I also remember 1999 when I registered 125 people in my neighborhood to make a difference in City Hall and the State House. What you don't do for me in this 24 years, please do it for him. He's going to make a difference, and I believe in him.
Thank you.
Hey, I love you guys. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, brother.
Bro,
Thank you.
you know, stay on the path. I've always tell you, stay on the path.
That's right.
Stay committed.
True indeed.
Marry this thing, right? Because as people that are activists, people that try to do this type of work, have a lot of, I wouldn't say just enemies, but a lot of things that come at them to distract them, to discredit you. You don't want to be discredited. You know what I mean? You don't want people discredited. Something to happen. God what you have, bro. God what God has for you. You know what I mean? I'm being honest, just God it. And if you just wait, man, just wait and be patient, it's gonna happen. You have the motivation, you motivate me, you motivate people in the morning that I send your name to. You have something, and if you didn't, I'd tell you wouldn't.
But let me just say this before we end.
Okay, go ahead.
I gotta thank you, brother. I'm gonna tell you why. I heard your name before I met you. I'm talking about over 15 years ago. Somebody came to me when I was telling this person I wanted to start a nonprofit, and I asked a question because I was ignorant. And I said, do black men own nonprofits too? And the individual said, not only do we own nonprofits, but I was with a man in Norfolk who started a nonprofit from Norfolk.
Yeah.
It blew my mind, brother. It blew my mind. He went to his cell, dug through his property, and gave me one of your pamphlets from your first nonprofit organization.
Be a buddy, not a bully.
Be a buddy, not a bully.
Yeah.
And I showed you.
You did, yeah.
I took a picture of that.
I got it
I
on
brought
my-
that home with me, brother.
Yeah.
I got that pamphlet almost 15 years ago. I brought that pamphlet home. It's in my room right now because that has always been my motivation in starting my nonprofit. It was you, brother.
Thank you.
So I salute you.
Thank you,
I
man.
really salute you, brother, because you're older than me. You've been around the block 1,000 times more than me, and look at where you're at right now. Salute.
Whatever I have is whatever I have, you know, at my disposal. You're welcome to it. If it's gonna further it, you're welcome to it.
And thank you so much for
No,
having
thank you.
us.
I mean, I'm honored by your presence. I really am. Like I said, I've seen you around, and like you said, in the penitentiary. I'm in love with your presence. You know what I mean? And what I mean is that peace. You know, that's what I want. You know, we search for a lot of things in life. That try to make us feel the energy I feel for you. I've tried drugs. I've had tons of money. You know, all the cars. I've had all that, and I never even got 1/3 of what I see on you. I've had it all, and it just doesn't. You know what I mean? So I love it. I'm grateful that you came, brother. I'm grateful to have you here. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Thank you. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for viewing. My name is Darryl Buchannan. I'm your host, and I want to say to Taisha, Darryl, and Zayla, Daddy loves you. Thank you.